of this wintertime turning I do up here in northern Idaho. But yeah, it's going to be a lidded pedestal vessel. So there's going to be a lidded joint right in there. Yet to be determined quite how I'm going to make it, but we'll get there. Got the basis down. And then it's going to be on the 8-inch high pedestal. 8-inch high pedestal here. The pedestal is going to be made up of walnut. And those rings will be 1.25 inches tall walnut. The cut list off the Larry Marley art. And then I also use my segmented probe program to help me set up the design. That's going to be the design on the bottom of the vessel, which will be from right here down to right here. And then I use their paint program. I love it. And then I have their cut list also, mostly so I know how many segments of what species. Besides the walnut, right now this is 3 different species: curly maple, canary, and padauk. And then this is the top, which is going to flip-flop. The canary is going to be the main band, and then there's their paint program for it. So that's going to be the top, which will go from right here up. And I don't quite know how the knob's going to go on yet. I've done one other lidded vessel in the past, but in this point here where the lid's going to attach, I'm also going to put in 2 species of wood. One will be right there, which I think will be babinga, and then there's going to be one at 180 degrees from it. It's going to be purple heart, and those are going to be indexing points. Once I clamp the lid and the base of the vessel together between centers and turn it all around, those 2 points will be where you true it up when you set the lid on it. Anyway, so I've been busy today, very busy today getting things milled out. There's the walnut. I need to make some 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, 3-inch padauk, and 1/4 inch, 3-inch canary there for some thinner rings that are going to be incorporated in it. And then, yeah, so I've been pretty busy. Anyway, later, more to come, much more. Oh, this will be, the feature ring will look something similar to this, except I have figured out how to tie these 2 pieces in so that it makes a complete T-shaped. All right, anyway, I did it on another vessel. This is just a trial and error piece there that I use. It won't quite look like that, will be close. But that will be the feature ring between the lower and upper parts of the vessel. It's going to be like 16 inches in diameter. Start off at like 10, 16 max, 16 and a half max. And it'll be over 30 inches overall by the time I get a handle on it. It will push everything I have in my shop. I'll be pushing what I've done in the past. Anyway, later. Well, here's those strips, 1 by 3/8, almost 3/8 strips, 1 by 1/4 strips I was running through the drum sander. Those are going to be a large portion of the feature ring. Anyway, yeah, and we still have those strips right there to glue up tomorrow. They're going to be gathered like that, and that's going to be some vertical pieces in the feature ring. Yeah, more to come. So I've done this pattern in the past. It's made out of several rings with some laminated stock, making the bottom of this the T-shape upside down and the T-shape straight up. But there's a ring that goes in between the two shapes to connect this together. And I say I've done it in the past. It's not the best lineup in the world, but I think I've got it figured out where I can make that ring that's right in here come out at a better length, more consistent length, to get it all to line up proper. Anyway, I'm only going to put one band of this in the project I'm working on right now, but we're going to get there. The laminated stock, so that makes the uprights of the T, that makes the top of the T, and then we'll use this 3/8 by 1 inch canary and this 1 by 3/8 wingy to make that center ring right here. Like I said, I think I've got it figured out where I cut these two pieces of wingy and with the one square 3/8 in there by 1 inch long, the wall thickness, to make that line up better. Anyway, wish me luck. So I'm all set up with my anchor sled to cut this vertical piece here. And then we'll come back and we'll cut the segment. And this is basically squared or 90, and the segment's going to have the angle on it. So here's the anchor sled. There's the piece that we're going to be cutting that's a vertical. I've got it all measured out, ready to go. And so we'll speed that up and check her out. So the feature ring is based on a 24 segmented ring. The segments to make a 16.5 diameter ring with 16.5 diameter ring should be 2 3/16. But I'm adding this spacer piece here, right here, which is this upright vertical piece here, and this is the actual segment. So to do that in a 24 segment ring, 16.5 in diameter, you have to cut the ring segment at 1 5/32, no, that's 7/32, excuse me, less this thickness of the spacer, which gives you that upright appearance. Let me get around here, like like this, like that. There it is. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's kind of hard to see into the camera, but that will give this piece here, this here, across here, and now that distance across there equals that 2 3/16. 2 3/16. You lay that there up against the ruler, and you lay that one against the ruler. You now have 2 3/16. Anyway, I hope you can see that. I hope I'm not over explaining it or under explaining it. But anyway, later. So here's the first ring of the feature ring lined out here. It's on a painter's tape. I did a dry fit. I did a dry fit, got my hose clamp all set up. And we're gonna put glue on it. We're gonna snug the hose clamp up around it, hold it. And that'll be the first of the feature ring. So this is basically a 24 segmented ring. With the spacers in it, makes it 48. And if you count the individual laminated pieces in the spacers, which is 3, it makes it something like 96 pieces. But I'll be gluing together 48 of them here. Anyway, later. So I'm recreating this feature ring that I've done once before on another vessel. So yeah, it looks something like that on the other vessel. And that one didn't come out perfect. I had some mistakes, so I'm really trying hard on this one. And trying to remember the steps I took, though they're pretty tough. So the idea that I had to do to come up with that was I had to take from this point to this point, to this point to this point, which was 1 inch and 13/16, and divided by 2, which come up to 29/32, if I did my math right. But then I had to take out the width of this piece, which I believe was 11/32, and to take that in half. I only needed to take half of that off that 29/32, which I needed to take off, if I'm thinking right, 11/64. No, yeah, 11/64. So that should be half of the width of this, if I said it right. And so far I've cut enough of those smaller pieces to come up with half of the ring, and it looks like it's going to line up quite nicely, which when it's all said and done, I'll take this other part of the ring and we'll set it on top of here like that. And none of this is sanded. And that thinner ring, the thinner ring is just experimental ring. It's not glued together at all. It's only cut in half of it. So it should be able to come up and make that feature I'm wanting. Yeah, I call it a keyhole feature. I got it off of some paperwork that I found when I looked up Greek patterns. But anyway, that's what I'm after. Hopefully it comes out. So today I'm gonna start gluing up the that center ring, that 1/4 inch center ring that I showed you guys the other day to that keyhole feature ring pattern is what I'm calling it. That ring is gonna have 96 segments total. And the last one I did, I used 1/4 inch painter's tape, and I lined out all the segments on a 1/4 inch piece of painter's tape. Then I applied glue and I made the circle, a ring out of it, and put it in a rubber band jig and pulled it together. But it didn't quite come out as good as I think it could. So I'm going to use this glue up of this ring will be in 3 steps. I'm going to start off today. Start off with the first step will be to pair up and glue 2 pieces and using a spring clamp as a clamp. And then the next glue up will be using my small DeWalt clamps, and we'll take these pairs and another pair and make a set of 4. And the third and final step will be setting up the rubber band jig and gluing them all together in the rubber band jig. And I'll film each one of them, or portions there of each one of them. But that's what we'll be doing this morning. So we're going to do just 1 or 2 here, and then we'll move on from there. And I keep a wet rag handy to wipe off excess glue. The spring clamp, try to make sure I have it all lined up evenly, and clamp. Oh, and it always wants to wiggle a little bit. So a little adjusting. And so, actually 96. So we got 48 pairs to make, like this. $48 pairs. So anyway, I don't know if you can see it well, but I'll do that to everything that's laid out on the table here. And by the time I get to the last one, I'll wait about 10 minutes or so, and I'll take them all out of the spring clamps, and then we'll do it with the dewalt clamps. More to come. Okay, so I've glued them all together in pairs. Glued them all together in pairs. Now we're going to take the pairs and glue them together in sets of 4 using a dewalt clamp. So and I have these the pairs separated out by which side of the fence, which fence, either the lower fence or the top fence of the sled that they were cut on. So that's why you see 2 stacks there. Once again, when this ring's said and built, it will have 96 segments in it. 96 segments, 1/4 inch thick. And should be built strong enough that it'll be able to run through the drum sander without any issues. I have in the past. But this one's a little larger in diameter, somewhere in the neighborhood of 16.5 inches. So there's the first one. Yeah. I'll fumble. It happens. I just have to make sure that any glue that gets on these ends of these segments get wiped off before it dries. So when I go to put it in the ring, the joint won't be too noticeable. Yeah. And like that for 48 times, something like that. Or no, a dozen, 24 times. So here we are. I've got the 96 segments glued together in groups of 4s. And I have the rubber band jig set up. And I'm only going to go through putting a couple of these in there because I've got this or shared this in other videos where I've done this and went through the whole thing. But anyway, this is just a recap. A recap of how it's done, or how I do it anyway. And yeah. So anyway, just give you a little bit, and then once I get the whole ring in here, I'll start pulling nails from opposite sides and bring the rubber bands in around it, and it will bring that ring into center. Anyway, more to come. I think I got it. I think I got it. Took some work, but I believe I've got it. We'll unclamp it here in a little bit and roll it around, take a look from the outside. But I do believe it's lined up. The lower one's not quite as good as the upper one, but they're all pretty freaking close. It's a tough pattern. It takes a lot of work. There it is, unclamped. Not too shabby. I don't believe I feel that it's well aligned. There may be a slight little differences here and there, but it's nothing that's going to be too critical. You'll have to look at it very closely to see any imperfections in it. It's a tough pattern to do, built in 3 separate rings. 2 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch. Anyway, or come. So we're at the point in the lower section of the vessel that this double ring, and I glued this stock together prior to cutting the segments and built this ring with, I've numbered 26. We're going to turn the outside of this round, turn the inside of this round and flush with the rest of the inside. And then we're going to come back and we're going to get a hold of the opening on the vessel with a set of cold jaws expanded into it, and we're going to cut this ring in half, and that's the flange ring for the lid. Then I'll cut a rabbet and a tenon, rabbet on the lower section down to what I think will be like 3/8 thick, and then I'll form the upper section to mate it and end up with a tenon on it, and to mate it to where it ends up at about 3/4 inch thick. And that ring will be the flange for the lid. And I've got the lid set out over here that once I take that walnut ring and get it nice and round on the inside, nice and round on the outside, and I'm going to take this block of walnut and cut it down and turn it into a knob. Then I'm going to cut a rabbet in this to fit said knob. Then I'll glue that section that has the rabbet cut in it to accept the knob onto a waste block. And then I'm going to start building out the rest of the lid onto this top ring, tenon side up against the waste block, and the rest of the ring pieces. Then I'm going to turn the inside of that rest of the ring pieces for the lid, mate it with the flange ring, and I'm going to squeeze it between centers, then turn the outside of the said lid, and then cut it loose from the waste block and insert said knob and glue it in. Anyway, I'll video it. We'll talk about it some more as I go along, and see if we can make this, see if I can pull this off. I believe I can. Later. So far we recovered from the incident of when I was parting this ring off and it blew apart on me. Found all the pieces, got it all glued back together. So now I'm setting up to thin down this ring. We're going to trim this ring flush where you see that pencil line at. That will leave about 3/8 of an inch there. Then we're going to come inside, cut a shallow rabbet. We're going to cut a rabbet in there, in that, out about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a 1/4 of an inch out from the inside edge. And then that will be the flanging point for that ring that I put back together over there. And once I have that all mounted up and put together on this section, which is the lid, I will cut a groove in it and leave a, I guess I could call it a tenon that will fit inside this rabbet, and that will be the lidded flange. That's the direction I'm going now, since I blew that one apart, but I saved it and got her back together. Anyway, more to come. Always living and learning. That's what I like about it. Okay, I'm done right now with the lower portion of this. I'm really hoping, I think it will, line all up. I have about a 1/4 inch wide, about a 1/4 inch wide by 1/4 inch deep rabbet cut in that. And then like I say, once I glue up all the lid and glue that partial ring on, I'll trim it down and I'll cut a tenon in it to fit that rabbet. That's the plan now. It always has been the plan. But anyway, wish me luck. We'll see if it can work. Later. So there's the lower half, and we'll set it to the side for a little while. As you can see, it's still on the waist block. Nothing's changed there. The inside's all turned. I still have a little bit to turn, or finish turning, on this last like 1.5 rings here. And as you remember yesterday, or yeah, it was yesterday, I was parting off this section off the lid flange ring, and it come apart on me, but it looks like we've got it back together pretty good. I'll run it through the drum sander, make sure it's good and flat again. And then what we're going to start doing now is this is the section for the lid. This ring will be under 27 there, so this is ring 26. I will cut a tenon, for lack of anything better to call it. It will fit into a rabbet that's cut on the inside of this vessel here. Yeah, I think you can see it there. And I have another waist block set up and ready to start. Another waist block, another face plate, and we're going to build that lid off of it. And this is going to be a top ring that's going to accept. I'm going to cut this round on the inside, cut a rabbet on it, then I'm going to build a knob out of this solid block of walnut that's going to be sitting on top of it. The section I cut this rabbet in will be glued against the waist block. So let me come back over here, find my waist block. So when I get through turning the inside round, cutting a rabbet in it to a certain size, somewhere around maybe 1 3/4, 2 inch, somewhere in there, that piece will be glued to the waist block like that. And I will start building the rest of the lid for the vessel off of this ring. And when I part it off of the waste block, the knob I make out of this will be inserted into that. That's my plans. Let's see if I can make it work. Later. I didn't quite get the seam like I wanted it for the lid and the vessel. I'm gonna end up running some felt in there, I think, to fill the gap in. I don't know. I'm real unhappy with it. Don't know what I'll do now. We'll figure it out. We'll do something. Looks like I may have it. I may have got lucky and got it fairly centered. Looking pretty good. I hope. Anyway, we'll continue to try. I'll see if I can't make the lid seam go together a little better. Anyway, later. Well, with a little more turning on the tenon and the lip of the ring, I was able to get the lip or the seam to match up cleaner. But then, unfortunately, the pattern's not lining up. So what I'm doing now, or what I will do now, is I'm going to cut those two half rings off, and I'm gonna build a new ring. I'm gonna glue it to the lower half of the vessel, and then I'm gonna glue it to the upper half of the vessel, all in one piece, and make sure that the pattern's all lined up. I'm gonna repeat the process of cutting it in half, and then I'll finish the inside of those two rings and cut them to the thickness I wish, and cut the mortise and tenon in it. And hopefully I can get all the pattern to line up. It's not off much, but it's enough that I'm not gonna proceed forward, because that's pretty well not lined up. Anyway, we're gonna go from there. Later. Well, I've rebuilt the ring that was going to make the lid flange, or the lid joint. In the overall construction, it was ring number 26, right here, this double thick ring. Tomorrow I'll cut it all round, and we'll finish this area right in here. I'm going to round off all the rest of this down to the top, which the top, I'll get that all nice into there, and then I'll part it. And keep your fingers crossed. I hope it all parts nicely. And then I'll build the joint, the tenon, or mortise and tenon joint for the lid. Anyway, when all said and done, this ring should be about 3/4 inch thick. Oh, there it is. Okay, there it is, turned. It blended in pretty well with the existing vessel. I'm not real happy down in this area, but this is the largest by far that I've turned on my 1836 yet. So anyway, we're gonna do some extensive sanding on it, down at like 400. And then I'm gonna come back and I'm going to cut this ring right here in half. That's the lid joint. Wish me luck. Let's see what I can pull off. This Paduke right here and 180 from it, this canary right here are the two indexing points that will line all the pattern up. I'm done turning on the outside, so like I say, I'm gonna sand it all good. This ring, once I part it, it's the only part on the inside that needs to be turned. Then I need to sand the inside of the lid. The lid needs some extensive sanding on the inside. And we'll get her here. Let's say we got some blending to do, some sanding to do, but we'll make all this work now. It's a little hairy turning it, keeping it all centered up. Ended up having to put the steady rest on it, which helped. Anyway, edit. Okay, it's all sanded down to the finished grit, and we're going to make an attempt to cut that lid off. This pencil line you see here is going to be the lidded joint, and I will turn down. Right now that's about an inch and 3/8 thick, now 1.5 inches thick, the whole ring there. I'm gonna cut that in half. Then I'll turn it down with a mortise and tenon and turn it down to where it's about 3/4 of an inch thick total. And that will be the lid. The first attempt at doing this didn't work out well. I didn't get my pattern lined up properly. This way though, I came back and rebuilt this ring. And I got the pattern all lined up nicely. So here we go. So now I've got the, of course you've seen that I parted it off from the lid. I parted the lid off. I also turned the inside of this last ring and I've now sanded it all nice and flush inside. And now we're going to take, in this pencil mark, I'm going to square off cut in, and I'm gonna leave a 1/4 inch thick tenon in there. It'll be a 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch tall tenon, and it'll be 3/8 inch below the tenon. And then we'll get the lid and we'll round off the inside of it, and we'll cut a mortison to match this, and we'll leave 3/8 of an inch exposed on the lid, which will make an overall 3/4 inch tall ring. Let's find out. Here we go. Well, here it is. Still got a little finishing to do. We're going to cut that off. There's a knob that will go in that, and that's the lid. Okay, so right there's the lid. As you can see, there's a little problem getting the pattern to line back up, but it's not too bad. Not too bad. It goes back pretty close. Yep, pretty close. And it was a tough one. So some of you know, I had built these two in separate pieces. And this ring, I had mounted to the lower half, and I cut it in half, and then I put it to the two, and the pattern didn't line up at all. So then I rebuilt that ring, and I glued it between the two halves, and then I turned it all around from the top down to, you know, that ring. Then I parted it today, and you know, it's not 100% perfect, but it came out pretty darn good. We'll find out. You know, it lines up pretty good up in the joint. The thing is, it is a lidded vessel, and when you pull the top off, take a peek inside. That's the thing about it. It's all the same on the inside and outside. The pattern just looks more magnificent inside. So anyway, like I said, we're gonna cut that waist block off. There's a knob I have built over here, and let me show you. I'll grab a hold of that lid and a set of coal jaws, and I mount this walnut knob in it. Then the lid will be done. And then I'll clean up the shop, and I'll set up my little spray booth, and we'll put several coats of lacquer on it. Anyway, more to come later. So I've applied a sanding sealer, my myelin sanding sealer, inside and out on the lid. Buffed it up with a 3 4/8 steel wool. I've got my Easy Wood Tools expanded jaws on here. I can grab a hold of the outside of it. I've slid my my headstock on my lathe down toward the end of the bed, where I can get a wider area or larger diameter area. I've got a hold of the lid well in the headstock here, and we're going to proceed to cut this waist block off. Once that waist block's cut off, the inside of that area, I'll turn it back around, put the coal jaws back on the headstock, and I'll clean up I'll most probably at that time put the steady rest on too, and I'll clean up the face of that block of walnut, segmented block of walnut there. And on the inside of that's already cut to accept this knob. And once I get it cleaned up and shaped and sanded a little bit, we'll install this knob, and then the lid will basically be done, and then it will be ready for finish. I'll put some sanding sealer on all this also at that time. But yeah, we're getting pretty close. So we're gonna cut that loose now. Stand by. So it's a little wobbly out here. It's not quite as stable as I wanted it. I cannot get my steady wrist and everything on there like I'd want. And unfortunately, the banjo extension that I had for this Laguna 1836, I busted a couple of them and I've never replaced them. So anyway, we're gonna still give it a go though. Here we go. Okay, here it is, and it's done. Several coats of clear lacquer, clear satin lacquer, several coats over a 2-day period, both outside and inside. It's got 2,930 pieces in it. That's counting the one piece for the solid knob on top and one piece for the floating bottom inside. So there is a slight misalignment at the lid joint, but it's slight, ever so slight. You get around the opposite side of it, and you really can't hardly see it. That's an indexing point there, that piece of Pedestal in between the two pieces of a canary. And on the opposite side, there is 3 canary lined up. 2 canary in the pattern, and 1 canary is a indexing point. This was the most challenging by far. I pushed my lathe to its max diameter, not quite max length. The length is 34 3/4 from the bottom of the pedestal to the top of the knob. The inside is sprayed and finished with the lacquer, just like the outside. The lid's the same way. Everything's turned out really nice. And the pedestal is turned also. The pedestal's turned also on the inside, as you can see, and everything turned out real well. So
how many pieces?
It's got a 39 or 2,930 pieces total. Anyway, right there.
Oh, okay.
Right there, these three here.
And we are calling it
The a Fabergé.
Everybody says.
Everybody that's seen it's been talking about it looking like a Fabergé egg. So yeah, I don't know if I'll, like I say, I don't know if I'll ever do another one quite that size. I learned a ton doing this one, and here we are. Anyway, later.